It went to the next track. I got carried away. Hey folks, it's Yannick Gwizdala. It's the Yannick Gwizdala podcast. I shall probably have to mute those first few notes of, what was that, Mute Math? Typical. Yeah, the tune Typical, not Typical that I run over. It's mandatory that I run over every time frame I set myself, getting carried away. Playing Miles Davis's Capricorn. Well, I say Miles Davis. Wayne Shorter's Capricorn. Wayne Shorter's composition. I want to say the album is Water Babies. Is that right? Let's hope my memory's not failing me. Always loved that tune, loved that record, loved so many records from that period. Not only of their playing of Miles, the quintet's playing, but of Wayne's playing and writing specifically. And Capricorn kind of jumped into my mind recently as I get ready to really ramp up the writing portion of the year. Working on so many different recording projects for 2025. And one of them is with choir, is with multiple voices, maybe an 8 or 12 piece choir. We're not quite sure on the exact orchestration yet, but Capricorn came up as a melody. And it's one of those interesting ones to me because it's kind of a melody with no set changes, as far as I know. As far as I know, that was conceptually what was going on, what is going on in that tune. From what I remember of Ron Carter's Walking, it's really open. And I actually should probably go back and listen to that a lot more. I'm just kind of going on memory at this point and trying to fake my way through the melody as best I can. When it goes up the second time, I think. I love how we go from like C minor, kind of, maybe even to B flat minor through F minor there, maybe, but then really A major, or it's just so many options, right? So many options of where to go harmonically speaking there. But that's an interesting one. With a melody with no real changes set, there's a lot of room. And, you know, I'm not going to go and play that at like a medium up swing tempo with a choir just singing the melody. Conceptually, it will be more like maybe stretching that melody a little more and finding really beautiful harmony all over the place and counterpoint and all kinds of stuff. Before we get going with today's episode and get into harmony and composition and all of that stuff, if I zoom or just move over here, yeah, if I move the camera over here, look what just came in. A few weeks ago, you remember I got hit by porch pirates and they stole a ton of books off my porch, which was a drag. Amazon delivered, and I was down here working on a video edit, and you know, I left them on the porch for maybe 4 minutes. And somebody came by and stole dozens of. They were actually Scales and Arpeggios, basis book of Scales and Arpeggios. This one, the newest one, the monster book, the 371 pager, biggest book we've ever done. So they stole a ton of those, and they stole a ton of 10-minute manuals, which was a drag because I just made a video, and I'll link it below, a video based around some exercises in the 10-minute manual. And then suddenly I was out of stock, and I put the video up and tons of people were trying to order it. So just to let you know, there are a bunch of 10-minute manuals in stock again now, and Scales and Arpeggios, plus Altered, Bass Player's Guide to Altered just showed up, and some fresh copies of Bass Player's Guide to Looping. Those are all in stock. And as I look down at my desk, we're doing some merch things. Obviously, you've seen the sweatshirts and the hoodies and the t-shirts. I have been, as I was just talking about, getting into composition mode, and not all of that is with manuscript paper. A lot of that is just ideas and notes and things I need to keep at the forefront, things I need to remind myself about the process as I go through it. And one of the things I saw at the merch store, which I thought, I'm going to customize one of those with my Time and Sound logo, is a notebook, is a spiral bound notebook, which now is kind of pocket size. It's not that much bigger than the iPhone, like twice the size of an iPhone. It's definitely portable. So this is going to be my notebook for all of the session notes and just notes in general, my practice notes, my practice routine, the things I'm working on. Most recently, I guess, before we get to the notes and to the harmony, by the way, all of that is linked below the video in the video description. But before we get to the harmony, I guess the thing I'm working hardest on is familiarizing myself with these two new instruments. Obviously, last week's episode showcased both of these new basses. The new RKM, look at that. I love that blue when it gets in the light. The new RKM short run, and the 5-string high C, and of course the new Matheson. So the new Matheson is fast becoming my new sort of solo instrument. It's kind of what I'm writing with. And getting used to in that sense. And the RKM, as you will see, I'm going to put out a dedicated video this week playing a bunch of different music, from djenting and chugging to straight up P-bass pop. That is becoming my sort of main utility bass for recording. There will be some more can I play bass or could I play bass with series videos, which I'm going to use the RKM for. So it'll give you a much better idea of what that bass means to me, and how it sits in a mix, and how it does all the things it was designed to do. You probably most recently, I think, maybe actually in last week's episode, I dipped into major 7 sharp 9 and kind of what that entails. And I've been working that into reharmonizing certain things. So that could even be that note right there. Now, there's the tendency to overdo it a little bit when you're really diving into something, and to me, that's fine. There's I've maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm going to butcher his name, the pronunciation of it. I would love to hear him say it, actually. I wonder if I could find a clip, but his name's Chris Lord Algie or Algie. I don't know how to pronounce it. Both him and his brother are legendary mix engineers, and Chris and his brother Tom. And I saw his process. And this may sound like, what are you talking about, mix engineer, when you're talking about harmony? Well, I saw his process of EQing instruments. In fact, just adding any sort of effect or manipulating any channel in a mix. And I saw him go to the console, maybe it was a treble or mid or something, and he punched the pot, and he went really extreme. Maybe it was on some guitars. He went really extreme with the mids, and then he kind of dialed it back until it sat perfectly in the mix. And I've seen a few of those videos of him mixing. That tends to be something he does quite often. And I'm like, oh, there is something to that. It's kind of the way I approach pedals, like turn everything up to 11 and then dial it back until the music comes out. And I'm a little bit like that with harmony. If I'm really going into something, it's not even necessarily new. I've been playing major sharp 9 for actually decades at this point, but in terms of using it as a compositional tool, I had a quick think back, and I think I can only remember using it on one tune very, very briefly. Maybe I'll pull that tune up, and you can see it was more of a reharm passing kind of device. And let's see, it's on the Union. And if I can pull this up from Spotify, I think it was on this tune. Yeah. I gotta remember where it was. Towards the end of the melody, I think. No, I really don't remember. Right in here, I think, on this descending. There. So it's just one instance of that chord happening. I can't even remember which key. It's been so long since we did that record in June of 2019, I want to say. That's the album with Clarence Penn and Philip Dizek and Ruslan Sorota that John Patitucci produced. Super fun project. That tune kind of nerve-wracking to blow over, I got to say. I think there were some things about that record. Here we'll get off on a little bit of a tangent. There were some things about that record that I look back on and go, compositionally, I could have been a little better prepared. And for the most part, playing-wise, I was prepared to play it all. But there were some moments, like a couple of moments, and I remember us doing a couple of takes of that tune. That's Tell Me, that's track 2 from that record. I remember us doing a couple of takes of that tune, and John really kind of coaching me. That was great. That's like an amazing part of having a producer in the studio, something I had never done for my own music until that point. Was really useful to have those outside ears. You know, you find sometimes that maybe you've experienced this, you find yourself getting a little bit lost, even if it's your own thing, and not lost in terms of the form, lost in terms of maybe direction of how to play or what to play or when to play, when not to play. And it was nice having, the coaching staff of John's Patitucci and Davis and also my wife in the booth, if only for intimidation factor. You know, 3 badass bass players sitting in the control room, staring out at me like, "Okay, come on, man, get it together." But yeah, there was some definite like coaching moments from Patitucci there where it really helped get through a tune like that. And when I look back on it, I would say that would be a moment where I was a little underprepared on the playing side, and you learn. I remember that, and it's it's something that will go in the notebook for sure. You know, when I come across moments on these new projects this year that are a little more challenging than others, I'll definitely be reminding myself, hey, you really might want to work on those changes a little more, or you might want to work on the melody, or how much vibrato you can really squeeze out of a certain note in a certain range of the instrument. And I guess that speaks to where we're at today, what we're talking about today, learning an instrument, getting used to it in all areas, not just okay, what do the controls do? Where's the physical balance of it? But like, where can you really lean into it? I'm very fortunate with both of these new instruments. Actually, there are no sort of dead spots. There are no weak points in them. So already I've sort of crossed a massive barrier or a massive milestone in that point where I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But then it's really about where's the personality, and how do I, the subtleties of like literally what I just did there, and then bringing in some rear pickup. I'm actually going to put the other in-ear monitor in just so that I've got a more balanced sound in both ears. And it's smooth. The action is creeping up slowly. It started off kind of average. Now it's getting a little higher. I'm creeping up, a quarter turn on the bridge every week or so, and getting used to both pickups full to just the front pickup. I really like that. Really like that sound on the front pickup. I was practicing yesterday, and I was actually working on those. Major 7 sharp 9 voicings, moving them in minor thirds. and out popped John's tune Another World. Love that tune, the title track of that record. It's amazing, like the moments that pop out from when you were a kid, the things that you've listened to the most in your life, and maybe like that. I'm not sure I've ever played that before. At least not consciously. I've never played the tune for sure, like as a performance of the song. But there are just those little moments that sometimes jump out. I think like Capricorn as well, like Wayne Shorter's tune. It's just always kind of close. It's always like on the front shelves of the library for some reason. This is all with no tone, by the way. If I opened up the tone, really different. It's a completely different take. And then that will sort of help dictate how I drive the pedals and how I use the pedals, how much sparkle I might get on the reverb, and some of those time-based effects. Right now, I'm not going through the big pedal board. This is basically direct out of the back of the amp. I am going through the Helix rack. That's where I'm getting that line 6. It's the basic delay. Basic reverb. The Hall reverb, I think it's called. Is that what it's called? I can't even remember. But it's the basic, basic reverb, just to give it a little bit of space. So no preamp, nothing, no big EQ, no boosts or anything, no modulation. It's just the natural sound of the bass with a little space in terms of reverb. And that's kind of how I start out with a new instrument, is to try and play it in its most basic form. And see where the music comes out and see what inspires me. I think that's the most important part, being inspired by it. There's no agenda here. The agenda, I think, has already been satisfied in terms of the fact that the brief was to build this hollow body instrument and then see where we go. So right now we're in the see where you go phase, and where we go has so far been incredibly inspiring and musical. So before I started recording today, I also have a new exercise for you guys and girls, because why not? I often use as a warm-up and sort of a flexibility thing, just to test where my chops are at, where my touch and my feel and everything is at. I often use something based around a minor chord, going to a 1 minor, going to a 5 dominant, going back to the 1 minor. It's something like that. I'm sure if you've followed the channel for a while, you've heard this one. And the variation of that, where we move around not chromatically in 12 keys, but in a cycle of fourths. That's actually something that's in the 10-minute manual book, by the way. Shameless plug. And actually, as I had the 10-minute manual books here on the desk, I was thinking like, oh, yeah, that there's a reason I put all of those exercises in there, and it's because I constantly come up with new ones to push myself, to challenge myself, to fend off the boredom of doing the same thing over and over and over again, of course. And of course, when we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, if we fall into that trap, we're not really learning anything if we continue to do the thing we know over and over again. Of course, there are elements of music, elements of the instrument, like instrument specific things that I think we must do over and over again. But I think that's more of a bigger picture. That's the time and sound thing. That's this mantra right here. That's time and sound. That's an overall rule, if you like, for the process. I think that the subtle variations in what we do for the day to day when it comes to stuff like this is really important. So today, I can't say it's completely new, because conceptually it's very, very similar in terms of what I just said, a 1 minor chord going to a 5 chord and coming back again. It's just a little variation on what I've been doing, and it's a variation that did not sit under my fingers immediately, still does not sit under my fingers, and it's something that's forcing me to work harder on shaping up the 5 chord in a slightly different fingering. So let's go here, the G minor. So a lot of similar characteristics. We've got the diminished, and this time we've got a major arpeggio. So minor, there, and you can finish it however you like. It can just end on the 1. Maybe we go up to the double octave up there, but basically we go up a minor arpeggio all the way to the 5th. And of course you can do this no matter how your bass is strung. Do not be put off by the fact that I'm playing a 5 string with a high C. It still contains the 4 fundamental notes of a standard tuning. We can still do it in a multitude of places. I just happen to be doing it right here in G. Come on, see, it really hasn't settled in yet. This is brand new today, this morning. And it is so similar to what I already do, but different enough to really catch me out on certain fingerings and certain things I'm inclined to slide to or hammer on that don't work for this, that I have to retrain the fingers. Yeah. And it really helps to visualize is the wrong word because it's sound, but here the audio version of visualizing it ahead of time, if you're a golfer and you hit the shot and you visualize seeing the ball go in the hole, the chances are you're going to make more decisions in your favor in terms of your swing and your shot choice and all that kind of thing. And in music, I think it's the same way. If you can hear what you want to happen ahead of time, you're naturally going to go there way more often than not. So yeah, it's more aggressive with the string crossing. I think that's what it is. Which leads to like plenty of options with the picking hand, in my case the right hand, for picking options, for fingering options. So kind of more options leaves more room for error when I'm first getting into something before I've really dialed in both sides of the equation. So right there, I've made a slight adjustment with the fretting hand. I was coming down to my second finger on the minor third, and then sliding down second finger to the 9, to the 2, and then playing the arpeggio. And now I'm trying to go putting my third finger on that minor third. And then, sliding the third finger down. Same concept, but using the third finger instead of the second finger. A very small and perhaps seemingly insignificant detail that ends up being the difference between it sounding super fluid and kind of inconsistent. And I'm really paying attention to what happens with the fretting hand. There's this feeling of it spreading out. If you're not watching on YouTube, this is the time to go over and watch there. There's a real... there are certain physical cues that I take as well. Certain things that I'm just kind of letting the fingers go where they go and trying to find the most natural position, the most natural execution of this. And there's that... when I use that third finger, the hand sort of explodes a little better and gets me to the shape that I really need in order to play that arpeggio going up cleanly. You could pause and go back to where I started doing this exercise, and you've seen a change in real time. This wasn't scripted. This actually happened while I'm filming. There's no editing on the podcast. So you can go back and see how there was a little bit more of a hitch in the idea, in the line earlier on in this episode, just a few minutes ago. And now... I feel confident enough even to wind the tempo up a little bit. I'm feeling more relaxed, more flowing, more natural. We're going to try it in different areas, different registers of the instrument. Now I'm thinking a little bit. Then I get into that small trap. It's normally momentary, of where I found a solution. Okay, great, and I'm playing it better, and I feel like, okay, I'll spend some time. I'll figure out this new fingering and get it under in the hands, in the muscle memory, and then I start to maybe overthink a little bit. Like, oh, what if I did this, and what if I did that, and it's a constant balancing act, I think, of letting the ideas, letting the thoughts and the solutions come to you, not forcing them, and then working on them slowly, subtly, and with consistency. You know, there's no substitute for time spent with the instrument at the end of the day. And of course, the massive bonuses are there to be had if you spend that time wisely, if you spend it finding solutions to things that really matter to you and things that are going to catapult you forward as a musician and give you the confidence, give you the muscle memory, give you the relaxed mode of performance, which is, I think, is optimal for any style of playing, and of course for any instrument as well. I think I think that I saw something recently that was talking about, and I haven't finished it yet either. It seemed like an interesting analysis of how a lot of sort of internet musicians, I think the title was sort of like Instagram musicians or something, but I think that goes across the board for people who make music in a space not unlike this one, but for those people who really have never left and do never intend to leave. They make it purely, their performance, their music is purely for the camera, purely for the internet. There's an interesting line of people who fake it to try and, keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. They're slowing, they're playing things at a slower tempo and speeding them up. And I want to finish the video. I think it's kind of interesting. It's interesting that, and maybe this is not the first time it's happened, but it's the first time I've seen someone doing a pretty in-depth deep dive on that and how that is a problem, and maybe that is a sign of people getting a little fatigued with 15 and 30-second clips that are, like I said, made solely for the internet. And just in my experience and the amount of thought I've put into that because of my interaction with the internet, and I'm no stranger to it. Here we are on the internet talking about this. I've thought about it a lot, and don't worry, there is a point here. This does tie back into time spent with the instrument. And I think that when time is spent with the instrument for all the right reasons, and of course the right, air quotes here, the right reasons are different for everyone. And I should say, like, if those people are happy doing that, then fantastic. I think the trouble, the issue arises when younger musicians see that as the goal, as the pinnacle, as the reason to play music, rather than what music was originally intended for. And where at least in my opinion, where I think it provides the most value to society is experiencing that, especially live. And through recordings and through real musicians playing real music, no matter what it is you play, no matter what style you play, what instrument, the issue becomes that when the motivation or the intent is to never leave the indoor space, to never leave the camera, and to go out and play, the time you spend with the instrument, I think it's a little bit devalued in that sense. And it doesn't give you those reactive skills that I think are so important, especially in ensemble playing. And of course the solo playing as well to a certain extent, but even more so when you have to have, or rather, I would hope, want to have that conversation with other musicians. I think it's really important that the time we spend with the instrument is done with the right intent. Again, right is different for everyone. There's no one way, there's no one solution, one size fits all. And this is just my little corner of an incredible, already small niche of bass over here on the internet. And this is my small corner of a process where I put things under the microscope and hopefully come out a better musician for it the other side. It's interesting as well, like I'm really listening for how the tone changes depending on where I am on the instrument. And this is very typical. If you're sitting there like, go, hang on a second, you're in this minor dominant thing, shit, now you change key, now you're on this fingering thing, and right hand, left hand, now you're talking about tone. Yeah, that's how it goes. Moving from one thing to the other very quickly, and in reality, it's not moving at all. They're all super related to me. So yes, I'm playing this exercise, this idea, this shape, these sounds, but I'm also really paying attention to the difference between that and how I could play this line here, and how different it sounds when I play it right there. Obviously a different range, but again, it's a different emotion. Yeah. Just so many different ways to express the very same notes, actually, even when we take away the different octaves. I'm probably not going to play it up there, but man, if I was looking for that really sort of more mellow, a little hollower sound, maybe I would use that extreme range of the lowest string in the highest point of the neck. And if I don't experiment, and if I don't find that, especially when I have time and a controlled environment like this, I might never find it live. So it's that repetition here in the controlled environment that is such a luxury. And then it is hopefully, and hopefully what all of this leads to is the fearlessness when we get out on the stage to explore and to not be afraid to, it's a tough one. There are no such thing as mistakes. Yeah, of course there are mistakes. You can go on a gig and you can mess up a tune. You can really screw it up and there could be a train wreck, and none of us are immune to that. It's like comedians that bomb. It happens. You go out there, you get a dodgy crowd, or your jokes are not polished, you're not ready to do it or something. Same with musicians. It is possible to go out there and totally take a dive. So yeah, there are mistakes. But for the most part, it's often, as long as your reactive skills, as long as you have some experience of being out there and knowing how to recover, those mistakes are often short-lived. Cataclysmic ones, yeah, they might get you fired. But those mistakes are generally it's like, they're probably not musically related if they're that big and they're getting you fired. So yeah, it's all about intent, all about how you spend your time with the instrument. And as always, this podcast and this channel and, pretty much everything I talk about, the newsletter, my mailing list, don't forget, get on that. It's totally free. And there's tons of stuff like this coming out on it. It's all linked below, as are the books. All of this stuff is just a little look into my process and how I approach that. Hopefully there's something for you to learn from that. Hopefully you become a better musician as a result, or just find a way forward for yourself, even if it's completely different from the way I approach it. That's it. I've got to get back to practicing now, to actually practice turning the camera off. That's like one of the most important things. Turning the camera off, shutting off the phone, closing my connection to the internet, and just playing music. I'm going to work on Capricorn, I think, for the rest of the day and see what I come up with. I love that line. All right, folks, that's it. I'll see you soon.